This is November the 5th, 1975. I am Mary B. Roberts, and I am interviewing for the Oklahoma Living Legends with offices at Oklahoma Christian College, a project of the Oklahoma Historical Society. Today, I am with the McDowell Club, one of the older clubs of the city. Doc Tate Nevaquaya, Nevaquaya. Doc is his nickname. Doc Tate Nevaquaya will speak to the McDowell Club this morning. He's going to talk on the now. Mr. Nevaquaya is a very versatile person. He paints, and there are a few pictures of his on exhibit. He plays the flute.
When I went to school at Newburgh, oh yeah. They never let the sun go down on that side. They never let.
I had a feeling that there might have been some Negroes down in south of Sitka.
Well, I imagine they were.
And there.
Yeah, what I'm talking about, what I knew about is the Atwood community.
Yeah.
They never, we never saw a Negro over there. It scared everybody to death to see one over there. Of course, they'd see him in town.
You remember Sam Sanders? You knew him, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
He was telling me that one time.
B. Roberts, testing. This is Mary B. Roberts on May the 26th, 1976. I am at the Garden House with the Oklahoma Club of the AAUW. Today, Mr.
She decided that she would work with the Girl Scouts. Most of us taught school in the classroom, and I think maybe she had a harder job than we had.
Commercial Club elected new officers. President W.J. Smith, Vice President L.C. Parmenter, Secretary A.Z. Sterling, Treasurer G.W. McShann, Directors is composed. Nothing is expected to really happen about that. A.Z. Sterling, Treasurer G.W. McShann, Directors is composed. Besides those officers of Robert Baird, B.A.I.R.D., U.S. Messenger, R.M. McFarland, Tutos T. Baker, Reverend J.F. Watson, C.F. Roberts, and W.M. Dunn. Holding our times April 13, 1906. As the statehood question of the statehood approaches, holding our times April 13, 1906. As the statehood question of the statehood approaches is the question, shall the laws of Oklahoma be extended over all the territory? And this has been proposed, but nothing is expected to really happen about that until statehood comes. But there are some who, and including the governor of Frank Plant, Oklahoma, who are considering now steps to be taken to extend the Oklahoma territory laws over the Indian territory during the interim until statehood becomes accomplished. The above should be dated April 20th. Holding Bell times April 20th, 1906. Holding Bell times April 20th, 1906. Yeager, J.L. Britton, an enterprising hardware merchant of Yeager. Times April 20th, 1906. Some confusion has come out of the city election for city marshal. J.A. Russell was appointed city marshal heretofore. During the election, George Walker won the election. However, the election was ruled void, but Walker went ahead to take over his duties and put men to work on the streets. When Mayor Langston returned from court in the Rooker, he ordered Walker to hand over his street material to the corporate committee and stop. And then later, the warrant was sworn out by by Committeeman Moore in Edmonton, and he was arrested for carrying concealed weapons. Holdenville Times, April of May 11th. Health. Dr. Butts is making a successful sanitary office, and the people generally are cleaning up the town under his direction. This is Holdenville Times, May 20, 1906. Friday the 20th, and they held election on Tuesday, so the Tuesday would be May the 16th. The election was held for city marshal. J.A. Russell won with 107 votes, and George Walker got 106 votes. William Buckner 39. So that's settled. We want to talk about marshal deal. Holdenville Times, May the 20th, 1906. Health. Dr. A.M. Butts, sanitation officer, is giving warning to everybody again to clean all alleys and streets bordering on your homes and business houses. Whether you own them or not, clean them up and keep them clean, or have it all repealed, or retire from the board of, or retire me from the Board of Health. Holdenville Times, April, May the 20th, 1906. Holdenville has a curfew law, and the juvenile boisterousness has ceased considerably on downtown street. This is Holdenville Times, May 20, 1906, City Council. Among other things, they considered the depot sidewalk question, and the report of the committee who was to see about this, Ewing, Ball, and Williams, said that the commercial club had $50 and would get some more. Mayor Langston told to go ahead and start the work. Holdenville Times, May 20th, 1906. This is law enforcement, and is probably the Seminole Rebellion item. It's from the Ada Star. Ovation to a prisoner. 7 years ago, about 50 men living in the vicinity of Maud, Oklahoma, burned at the stake 2 Indians for brutally outraging an estimable white woman. Period. Last week, Monty Ballard, M-O-N-T, Monty Ballard, a man who had just finished a term of 7 years in Leavenworth Prison for alleged participation in the burning, returned to Maud. Not, however, as a criminal who has satisfied the law, but as a martyr who gave up his liberty in defense of American womanhood. His homecoming was turned into a jubilation meeting by his former friends and neighbors, who held a public reception for him and his wife, at which the town band played patriotic airs, AIRS, and the good women of Maud showered floral offerings upon Mr. Ballard and wife. Thus is the law vindicated and a good citizen restored to his own. Ada Star. Times, May 25th, 1906, church. The Church of Christ will meet in the Congregational Church Sunday morning for Sunday school and religious services. Everybody invited. Times, May 25th, 1906. This is in a park. The railroad officials met Saturday, the 6th day back, about the 17th, and decided to convert the vacant lot across the fiscal tracks from the depot into a park. Holdenville Times, May 25th, 1906. First Methodist Church. First ME Church. Announced with the meeting, Will T. Cummins, Cummins, pastor. C.W. Snell, secretary of the church. Holdenville Times, June 2nd, 1906. Fiscal Railroad officials are getting advertising information on Holdenville and are putting out a little magazine for 5 cents. The news has encouraged all Holdenville people to subscribe to it, to give Holdenville a lot of publicity. Holdenville Times, June 2nd, 1906. Ordinance number 83 provides for the protection of the people of the incorporated town of Holdenville. Section 1 provides that all storage houses, magazines, tanks, and other places where powder, coal oil, gasoline, dynamite, or other explosives or combustibles of whatever kind or nature are kept within the incorporated limits of the city of Holdenville. And they are hereby declared the nuisance, offensive and dangerous to the people of this town, said town. Section 2. This will be a duty of the town marshal of the incorporated town of Holdenville to immediately, upon the passage of this ordinance, make examinations and investigations for the purpose of determining whether or not any of the nuisances herein mentioned exist within the corporate limits of said town, and when any nuisance herein mentioned shall be found by said marshal to exist within the corporate limits of said town, it shall be his duty to immediately report the same to the mayor of said town.
This is an interview with Mr. Frank Moore.
Across the river. That was across the St. Lawrence, not across the St. Lawrence. What river was it?
St. Lawrence.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Montreal's on an island.
on an island in the river, yeah.
I see.
It's 2.5 miles from the shore to the island on the south side, and I never was on the north side, but it must be about 2.5 or 3 miles on the other side, because the Ottawa River comes in there too, and I imagine it's about 3 miles on the other side. And the island is about 3 or 4 miles wide itself. It'll be 7 miles water there to accommodate the island.
Now let me ask you if Messenger talked with you after that, and he did confirm that that's what happened in Oklahoma City with your brother.
Yes.
I mean, with this fellow Hughes. That's
Most people in
that.
Holdenville expected that our county would be called Scott County because the Scots Scots family had much to do with the beginning of Holdenville, and it was entitled to be called Scott County.
Yeah.
But it got away from that.
The Scots were pretty big contractors back then, weren't they?
Well, they built the Frisco Railroad through Holdenville, and that made Holdenville because before that it was just the one railroad that stopped the place, you know. And the future was very uncertain, but with two roads here, the crossing was assured that the town would be built here. And the Scots all located in Holdenville, and one of them built a hotel here.
There's a hotel up there where the M&P is, or I mean,
Just South Safely, yeah.
Tasco is now. I mean, hell, it was built there. And hell, they were
called the Rock
Scott
Hotel, wasn't it?
Hotel
It was
for
Scott
years.
Hotel.
Yeah. First called the Rock
It
Hotel.
was a Rock Hotel. Some
I
called it
know,
the Rock
but
Hotel, but then the name
they-
of it was Scott Hotel.
It was Scott Hotel.
Well, I noticed they called it the Rock Hotel in the paper, referred to as the Rock Hotel,
Well,
and then later they
might
came.
not because they didn't understand just. But it
Well,
was,
they
it
spoke
was,
later about him
It
changing
was
it.
built and operated by Mr. Andrew Scott.
Yeah. A.W. That A.W. Scott.
A.W. Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, Andy's grandfather. You know Andy Scott here. Used to run I think, used to be in the television and repair work.
Yeah, I know him.
All right, it was his grandfather.
Yeah, I know the Scott. I knew A.W. Scott.
Yeah.
He was over there at Lamar. He was quite a contractor, an auctioneer, and so on. It was his father that built it.
Will Scott and a Jim Scott and a Andy Scott.
W something. Then there's A.W.
Will, Andy,
And A.W. Scott was.
A.W., I don't know.
Hughes Holdenville named the county seat. Why we had to do the best we could to.
Yeah. So you never developed your sport interest because you had sickness.
Yes, and I never did take much part in sports, just because I didn't start off young at it.
Did you like sports? I mean, did you like to watch them?
I used to like to watch, and that skating is awful pretty
Yeah.
thing. When you get to be a good skater, why it's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's.
And I liked baseball. I played baseball in school, and when I was young, I played baseball quite a little. But that's about the only thing that I ever had in sports.
What do you like now? What do you like to watch best now? Football, baseball, or hockey?
Football and basketball I take more interest in than I do in baseball now because we don't have any local baseball, and the other games, I don't know, I just like to listen to them on the radio.
Did you ever develop any sort of a trade, like a bricklayer or a mercantile fellow, before you started into this business?
No.
What were you doing in Dallas?
That's where I got in the seed business.
In Dallas?
In Dallas, yeah.
I
I worked
see.
in the seed house there.
Yeah.
And we intended to go into the seed business in Oklahoma City, but the seed house had just moved in from up in Missouri before that, and this fellow that we met at the hotel in Oklahoma City told us about what was going on in Indian Territory here. So we came back here to Holdenville with him and stayed here. and we opened a seed business here, and
Up there where the courthouse is now.
because there had been no farming done in Indian Territory until 1903, and the newcomers who settled here in 1903, there was thousands of them who came here. They had nothing to plant. There was no seed in the country. They didn't have anything to plant, and we were in the seed business, and it was a good business because we sold seed for 100
Yeah.
miles around the city.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Did you do much traveling before you settled down? Have any trips?
You
Do
mean,
much traveling around over the country
You mean
when you were a young fellow?
No, the first travel I made was when I left home to go to Chicago, and I lived in Chicago for 1 or 2 years, and then I went to Dallas. Well, I went to from Oklahoma City, from Chicago. I went to directly to Galveston. I knew and had met a young man in Chicago who was from Texas, and it was the time of the great Galveston Storm that nearly destroyed the city of Galveston. And this young man went to Galveston to be with his kinfolks that were involved in that storm.
Now, was that in 1901 or thereabout? About 1901, shortly before you came here?
That was in 1918 and 98, I believe.
98. Well, I ran across some story about it in the paper.
It might have been 1899. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, either 1898 or 1899. And where was I anyhow? I forgot.
Well, you were talking about the Galveston Storm.
Oh, yes. And this young man went to Galveston and was with his kinfolks until they recovered from the storm, which was quite a thing. I went down there and I found that the streets filled with houses turned upside down, resting on their roofs, and the bottom sticking up from the sky. And the city was in a terrible condition, and there were many thousands of people, of course, killed. It was a very fine little city before that, but it was nearly destroyed. And anyhow, that's where I went, anyhow. And just on this young man, when he came back from Galveston, why he told some wonderful things about Texas and the Texas people and what was going on in Texas. Why I just couldn't help but get interested, and I took off, and I always said I never stopped till I got my feet in the Gulf of Mexico.
You went from Chicago all the way down there?
Yeah, but on the way down, to tell how people were pouring into Texas at that time, the Santa Fe Railroad had advertised that they would have excursions to Texas on a certain day, and I got a ticket to go to Texas. Well, the Texas permitted you to land in Texas and get off and get on again as many times as you wanted to go across Texas and see Texas. And going down, why I got off a number of places and got on again, going on my way to Galveston. And Dallas was one of the places I stopped at, and I admired Dallas more than any other place that I stopped at. And I came back to Dallas to make my home there. But I only lived there a couple of years when this Oklahoma business came up.
I see. And you worked in a feed house?
I worked in a seed house there, and
Yeah.
when I came to Holdenville, well, that's what I started to do here, because it was the only business I had ever worked in, and I thought I knew enough about it to run a seed business.
Was this your ambition to have a seed house or seed business?
Well, after I decided on Oklahoma, it was because that need of seeds was prevalent all over the territories. Of course, at that time, was not a state, it was territory. But there was a demand for seeds because farming was confined mostly in western Oklahoma to the growing of wheat, and there was a demand for seed nearly all over the state. But in Indian Territory had never been worked at all before that time, and the farms had been idle and pasture land, you know. And we opened a seed house here anyhow, and man, we just sold seeds for 100 miles around it.
I see.
Like this. And it is a place where the James boys used to come to when they would pull off a robbery or a bank robbery or train robbery or whatever it was up in Kansas or Missouri or up north of here. They would get on their horses and they'd race as fast as they could to Indian Territory. And where they landed was this scale store up at Wetumpka. And they made that their home. And they could get their eats there, you know, for a while until the thing would blow over, and then they would separate and get back home again. And there was two brothers of the James, the Frank James and the Jesse James, but Jesse James got killed before my time. And but Frank James lived in Dallas, and he also came up to Oklahoma and lived over in western Oklahoma. I think that town south of Lawton there, that what's the town? Down near the Red River. It's the largest town in the southwest.
In Oklahoma?
Yeah. What's the name of that town?
Not Ardmore, is it?
Oh no, it's way west of Ardmore, over near right close to the western line.
I don't know what it is.
I know the town well, but I just can't call the name now. And Frank James lived there for a while, but from Texas, he was connected with a big store, a Jew store on Elm Street down. Well, the store went from Elm to Main Street. It was a big store, but spaced on both streets. And they got Frank James to work there just to attract attention, you know, and to attract people. And he stayed there. He didn't work, but he just stayed around there, showing himself and so forth. And he came up here to visit Roy Scales. And Roy Scales was running the store that time. His father had died, and he was running the store. And I met this Frank James in the Scales store. And he stayed here for probably a week or 10 days and went back to Dallas again. But he was very friendly with the Scales because he had lived with them so much. And,
let's see. It might have been a different thing. I'll have to check that out sometime.
he had a son, but it must have came in his elderly years because I'm quite sure he didn't have any son when he was in Dallas. But that's a long time ago, and I could be mistaken.
Well, I'll check that out, and I got it out of this paper. See, I read a little article in there on this boy was staying with the Scales family.
About the Catholic Church organization.
When we had a church, when we bought a church, Of course, we didn't pay a large amount of money for that Baptist church because everything was pretty cheap in those days, and it was for sale, and there was not a very big demand for churches, you know.
Yeah.
But we bought it anyhow, although we only had about 15 members.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the way most of the churches started, wasn't it?
Oh, I guess so. Well,
Had to start with the field.
When the Holdenville was started here, it was just a stop on the Rock Island Railroad. And a few years later, when the Frisco put their road through here and made Holdenville a two-railway town, why, it pretty nearly assured that Holdenville would be one of the cities of the Indian Territory.
Yeah.
And we were on the way. Afterwards, we went to work in the store with Roy. And as we got older, he went to work in the store. And after a while, Roy Scales left here and went to Muskogee. And this Anthony took over the store. When Roy left here, Anthony took over the store and ran it himself for a while. And I don't know how he got out of the store anyhow. And I lost track of what became of the store afterwards, but the store had always been there. But Anthony left the store and went to work at Wewoka with the trading company over there at Wewoka, the Indian store. And stayed there for a few years, and this oil field up north opened up, and he went up to again, I can't call the name.
Drum right?
I can't
Bristow?
Huh?
Bristow? Drum right?
No, it's a little southwest of Bristow. A little southwest of there.
Chandler?
No. Anyhow, it was right in the oil field there.
Yeah.
The big oil field. And he went up there and he worked in the store there, and there was some of those fellows around there that had made a lot of money because all was found on their farms, you know. And it seems to me that there was one party up there that had made a lot of money out of oil, and he was not a businessman, he was just a farmer. And anyhow, he picked up this Roy Anthony and set him up in a store.
Yeah.
Financed the store for him, you know, and set him up in it. And Roy did very well, and pretty soon I found another place for his store. He bought another store and turned it over to Roy to run. And pretty soon they got to operating those stores, and it was successful. And they kept multiplying and increasing the stores all the time. And this man, he finally died, I guess, and disappeared anyhow. And Roy was sitting pretty himself at that time, and he just kept on building stores. I think they have something over 250 stores now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's how it all started now. It started with this Roy Anthony, just a houseboy here in Holdenville. And he wasn't a party that I would spot as being exceptionally brilliant or capable. He was just a fortunate young fellow that got started off in the right line and was able to conduct it, you know, reasonably well, and made a big success out of it. But I remember when he was in the store here, we used to sell him stuff in the mill here, corn meal and stuff like that, you know, that he would hand in the store. And I noticed him writing a check, why he would take a long time to get a check written. And I would sit down and write a check just in a moment, you know. But he would take a long time to write a check. I always remember that.
Yeah.
But he made a whole lot more success than I ever did.
Well, that's Baptist church that you bought, that the Catholics bought over here on this corner of 6th and Echo.
Yeah.
And you don't know whether it must have been, I understand the Methodist church was over there where B&M Motor Company is now.
Yeah, well, I don't...
And the other one must have been, well, this church that you bought, there used to be the Kayla Ina,
yes,
hotel?
Hotel.
What it,
I believe that hotel was on the corner there where the... I don't know what the name of that filling station is.
Conoco station.
Across from, is that a Conoco?
Conoco.
Well, that's where the Calayanby Hotel was.
Well, now this church wasn't located
Must
there.
have been on the other corner then.
It had to be one of the other corners, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that'd be over there where the ice plant or where the gin is.
That hotel was right on that corner there, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And you moved that down on the 300 block of Creek. Now I remember where that was. It's on the other end of the block there by the rock house.
Yeah.
And then you moved from there to where you are now?
Yes, out on the highway.
Do you remember what year that was?
No, I don't remember what year that was.
Well, we can find that pretty easy, I'm sure.
Yes.
But that thing about the being the first church on the railroad to be organized on the Fiscal Railroad in Oklahoma would be a pretty good thing.
I thought so too. Now, I never thought about that in all the years since I was here until about a few months ago. It struck me, something probably caused me to think it over anyhow, and it struck me that I couldn't remember any other town that had a church when we had one here. There was nothing south of us here from here to Texas. There was nothing south of us that had a church, and there was nothing north of us. There was no Henrietta in the early days at all, and Sapulpa, I don't remember anything about their having a church there. The first church I remember Sapulpa having was about 10 years after we had one here, and we had a very small congregation, but somehow or other we managed to have a church in those days. And
if a fella could get up there around in Sapulpa, around some of those old timers in there, they might recall when their church was established if they don't have a record of it. Well, that can be established all right.
Which church are you referring to?
The ones at Sapulpa and at Tulsa.
Oh, yes. Well, my daughter in Sapulpa, I wrote to her and asked her to inquire up there about when they had a church in Tulsi, and also to inquire about Sapulpa. But she hadn't been able to get any information about it on inquiry now.
Do you remember the name of the missionary priest that came in here before you had a church?
They had a missionary service out of Muskogee, and we had for a few years when we had service in a private home. What was I going to say? Yeah, there were several different priests that came out of Muskogee that just came once in a while, you know. And but the one that was coming here when we got the church was Father Glenn out of New York, out of New York City, a very fine young priest that came here. I don't know where he ever came from. New York
Who was
City.
your first priest in the organized church?
Yeah, he was the one who organized, who got us to have a church here. And he had been coming here for some little time, and he was also attending to several other towns in his territory. Yeah. But he picked Holdenville anyhow to have a town. We had mostly Moors. I and my brother Jim and my mother lived here, and my sister. They were all separate families, you know. And then I had another brother that came here from Canada, but he didn't stay here. He went to Klondike from here, and he didn't stay here. But the Moore family was the ones that the church was depending on to maintain a church here.
And what was his name, this priest?
Father Glenn, W.J. Glenn.
Glenn.
G-L-Y-N-N, Glenn.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be interesting.
That is very
location of Timber Post Office.
Where the location was.
Yeah, I was just putting my notation in here to identify what we're talking about.
Oh, that's
yeah.
I didn't know that you would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Then, let me ask you if you know anything about this post office. M-A-N-T-E-E, Mantee. And there used to be a schoolhouse up here called Lone Oak, right north of here, a mile east, about 10, 12, about 13 miles to Lone Oak.
Yeah.
And right where that schoolhouse was settled, there